So I'm going to call the select board meeting to order on Monday, May 2nd. Looks like we have a full house, looks like we're all gonna be on TV. It's an exciting night. Okay. One of our select board members is not here tonight, so it will be Jody and I will be here. And first order of business is the approval of minutes from April 25th. Did you have a chance to look at them?
Yes.
Okay, I did too. So are we good with the minutes? I did make a couple of changes. Did you see those?
Did you see my
Pardon?
latest note? I took out the clause, one clause.
Oh, okay.
Completely,
Okay.
because I kind of disagree.
You took out one clause? Which
Yeah.
clause?
Alright, when did you take it out? I looked at the whole.
On the water at 4th Street.
Oh, can you just tell me what it was?
You and Mike had had a disagreement about the responsibility of it.
About what we should do, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So you think I thought that they were responsible? Okay, well then publicly I would say, I don't think they were responsible.
But the way it came out, that's how it
Yeah,
sounded.
okay, so that's why I just want to
You know,
clear-
they had purchased the property and therefore they owned the problem. But I just took that out, it really doesn't matter.
Oh, okay, all right, I see what
You
you're saying.
know,
Okay, fine.
just saying that it's,
Okay,
the responsibility is still in question.
yes, that's super. So I'm good, and you're good, Jody?
Right, yeah.
Okay. All right, community business.
Yes.
So, there are a lot of folks here. Kristen, we're set to kind of sort of do things at 7-ish, if that's still okay?
Yeah, that's fine,
Yeah,
I
okay.
don't wanna go before.
Yeah, all right. So, others who are here for community business? Yes,
Trying to submit paperwork for a building permit.
okay, please bring it up. Were you hoping that we would review it tonight?
Hoping so.
Is it new construction?
Yeah.
We usually give new construction, not usually, we give new construction to our building inspector. It will take some time to look it over, so we won't be saying yes or no tonight. We will be passing it on to our building inspector.
Okay.
We'll let him know, is that okay?
Yep.
All right, thank you, appreciate it. Tom, before you go,
Yes, ma'am. Will do.
all right, thank you.
Can I get some
Yes.
kind of introduction?
Absolutely, here you go. Yes, sir.
Hey there. I guess I'm here for two reasons tonight. One would be for a new application for a building permit, which you already have submitted. And the other reason tonight would be to answer to the board in regards to a letter that I received for issues.
And your name is, please?
Daniel Lyons,
Daniel Lyons, and your address?
32 Rollinsford.
Okay, excellent. Would you come up and, can we ask Tom, can you be on board too? Because Tom is our main advisor on these issues. And there were 2 or 3 items, I think, that we were concerned about. And-
Correct.
Yeah. So maybe Tom, can we ask you to,
Yes. As requested, I went to do the site inspection because there seemed to be a lot of activity. Even though it wasn't related to the building, we all know the town requires building permits for site work. So there appeared to be a lot of site work going on. It was not covered under the scope of work of his permit of like 6 or 8 months ago. So that was the reason for the letter, plus it appeared as if he was encroaching on an abutter's property.
the Eversource?
Yes. Come to find out, we were right in the first one, that he did not include the site work that's undergoing right now on the original permit. But he brought in a plot plan of a subdivision in a deed that says he owns half of that, excuse me, 100-foot lot that's between him and the abutting house. So he, can I see the deed, please?
It's the first one.
Yep. Yeah, and here's there's also another parcel. Correct. Yeah, he owns half of that parcel according to the deed that the power line runs over. So he may be in the easement, but it doesn't appear as if that we have correct records in the town assessing, because it's pretty clear, well,
Here's clear.
according to the picture, excuse me, in the deed, it appears that he does own half of that lot. So as far as the encroaching on the abutting parcel, that may be a moot point. He does have the application here for the additional site work that was dropped off April 28th, last Thursday. And, oh, the motor vehicles, you were gonna respond to that? There's a bunch of motor vehicles that could be construed as a violation of the open storage
Yes.
in the table of use regulations. So if you want to address those?
Absolutely. I guess I would ask what the concerns are. I guess the first thing to do would be to introduce myself. My name is Dan Lyons. I'm the owner and occupant of 32 Rollins Road. You know, a U.S. natural-born citizen, a veteran of the United States Army. I'm a current and active taxpayer, not only to the state of New Hampshire, but the state of Maine as well. I've only owned this property for 7 months. Just moved into town here, and you know, moving into the property, it was unoccupied for well over a year, and so I've come in and you know, I'm doing the work to make the place my own, clean it up, and do the improvements. So I'm new to this process, so there seems to be a little bit of confusion in the language and the verbiage and the process of the permits and everything. So, you know, we did, I thought, get the first portion of the work straightened away last fall with the granting of the application. As Tom explained, you know, it wasn't clearly stated that, you know, the materials taken from the side of the house was going to be deposited over here, and there was at that time, I guess, a little discrepancy maybe, or just uncertainty of where the lot lines were. So that having said, and we'll get to the other additional permit as stated. I guess I would ask what the concern is with the motor vehicles and machinery, et cetera. And what I would say is that I am in the process of settling in and improving the property. And if as anyone probably knows from going by and you know, seeing the progress on the house and, you know, kind of clean it up and trying to you know, spruce the place up and everything. The items, I guess, that would be of concern on this side of my property would be my equipment and my machinery and everything it's all useful, functioning equipment and materials that, you know, are for my use. And they're only there at this point because of the extent of the work that I still need to do to clean up and organize and you know, put the stuff away. So I have every intention, you know, with the completion of the landscaping and the work that you have the application permit for, to, you know, get this work done and get this cleaned up and organized and straightened up. And
Okay, it's starting to, some of the issues that we talked about are starting to clear up. I think there was some concern that they were unregistered vehicles and that were just sort of hanging out on the property, for want of saying it differently.
Right.
And that was the impression that we had. That was one. There was the, you know, whether the excavation work that you were performing was, it now looks like it may in fact be on your own land, and we'll get that sorted out with our assessing company. But if it involves filling in wetlands, there are probably some issues around that are state-related, not just ours. And there was also an issue, I believe, with the driveway, wasn't there? Because you live on a state-maintained road, so it's really not a Rollinsford maintained road, it's a state-maintained road. And driveways and driveway permits are provided by the state, and if you're, you know, they presumably originally approved a driveway permit for your driveway that was like this, and we've heard that it's been changed or moved, and we're not exactly sure that the state has been involved in those changes. have I stated some of these things correctly, is that?
You have, yes. I think it was at the time of the last permit, we contacted Division 6, which are the ones that maintain this area, and he said that he did not have a driveway permit application, and I guess it was my impression that he was gonna follow up in this alliance, but evidently not.
Correct. No, we did address that on the first permit application, and it was put in the application that there was to be a application for permit for driveway alterations
Widening the driveway,
to be submitted, which,
But the point is that the DOT, Division 6, is the one that issues those. So it could be on your application, but the town doesn't have the authority to approve it, the state does.
correct, and at that time it had already been done, the work had been done.
Right, it was an after the fact thing, right?
And I got an application from Tom, which had been submitted, and currently I
Oh, you
do
did?
not have a response for you.
So you
But it was
have, you
submitted,
have applied to the state
absolutely.
for the
Yeah.
for the changes to the
It
driveway?
has
Okay,
been
you are
submitted.
awaiting,
Correct,
resolution.
correct.
All right,
And as, in response to the wetlands issue there, I don't know if you have, something that we could see that shows that that is on the wetlands, docket, or the, is actually put in as wetlands. But the area that is wet would be the area down near the ditch. And if you come up to my property right now and you go to the uphill side of the ditch, you can see that there's an active stream of water that's coming down the ditch, going through my culvert and into that area of the power lines, which, from my knowledge, nobody seems to be taking care of the ditching, and so the water is not able to have the proper pitch to drain down into the rest of the ditch into the culvert and crossing the road. So the wetlands there appears to be really just the area down by the ditch, which is the runoff from the hill and the road and
so are you
such.
saying that that it's not flowing through the culvert appropriately? Is that what you're thinking?
There's a little bit flowing through it now, because when I purchased the property and I cleaned out that culvert, the culvert was actually plugged and clogged from the bamboo and from road debris and, probably dirt from plowing over the, however many years since it hadn't been maintained. And so probably there may possibly be more water in there now, because I've opened it up and it's flowing down, and because there's not a pitch and the ditch hasn't been cleared out, it's settling there by the road. But the property in question, up where I've been depositing my materials from the work that I did, unless you have something else that says that is wetlands, I mean, it's not in what appears to be a wetland.
Okay, so
to
you're
me-
not sure that in fact where you're dumping can be, is wetlands?
Correct, and unless you can, show me that indeed there is something
Yeah.
that states that as wetlands, and I wouldn't be privy to that without doing further
Yes.
research.
Okay, well, yes,
I
Tom?
don't think there is anything I need or any of the town records, but I could get the local DES guy to come out and look. I understand what you're saying, it certainly is feasible that it could be man-made after so many years, it settles in because of cat o' nine tails, et cetera.
Right.
Wetlands can be defined by soil type or vegetation. Whether or not that's exempt from the wetland regulations,
Yeah,
I really don't know, but
but DES would be able to tell us?
yes,
And you
yes,
could have DES come out to take a peek?
yes.
Okay. So,
So in my opinion,
Yes.
I was depositing, this material from the property over here on another portion of my property that, I had certainly assumed was appropriate and within the scope of the work that I was doing, although it wasn't noted in the original application permit process.
but you have since either extended that permit or submitted a different permit?
You have that new.
This is the new application that dropped off on the 28th, and it does say it's essentially this, what he just stated, he's bringing in the fill from the left side of the house, putting it on the right side of the house. He has a small garden shed, which is only 64 square feet. So if we kind of put on hold the wetland determination, and if I understood you, when this work is done, all that machinery, all the equipment is gonna be gone?
Unless you can show me that, I mean, I cannot park my man toys and my usable, equipment. I'm saying that there's not gonna be unregistered vehicles. I mean, these items are not registered, they don't need to be registered. They're, it's a bulldozer and an excavator, I mean, they're not items that would be registered. And just like coming, from my home to the town office here, I mean, I've seen, many other properties that have large, long
Yeah, so
tractors
these
and
aren't,
bucket
these
loads.
aren't
So-
unregistered cars.
Right, now.
They're
in respon-
unregistered,
in-
they're
in-
pieces of equipment.
Exactly, and in response to the unregistered cars, absolutely, the only two on the property would be the two in front of my home, which are for sale. So,
Is there a limit to?
it's not like a storage thing, it's that they're there to sell, and I mean, if it becomes a storage issue, I mean, then, the one I could register and just start using again, or, the other one I could, dispose of, so that's.
My understanding is that there is a limit to the number of unregistered vehicles that one can have. I don't know what that, without getting without being registered as a
Right,
licensed dealer.
right.
I don't know what that is, do you?
I think it's in the ordinance, yeah, you can't have more than one. So, but you're saying that's,
Per property,
Right.
per license.
you can't have more than one unregistered, uninspected motor vehicle. You're saying one of them can be.
Yes, and that's perfectly fine, we can take care of that easily, I can just, make the registration current on the pickup truck, and then, I mean, I have no problem, getting rid of the car and, registering the truck, or, whatever needs to be done to rectify that problem. I didn't know that was, gonna be an issue, so that's why it was
Well,
sitting
that
there
was
for
one
sale.
of, that was one of the, exactly, that was one of the things that was brought to us. And
Right.
so again, one car for sale is one thing,
Right.
but, 2, 3, then people start to question what is like
Right,
going on.
right.
The other issue that I think that perhaps we were questioning is, are you running a business from there, and have we not, gone through the planning board to see about running a home business?
Right, and-
Which one might consider based on the
Right.
equipment that's there,
Right,
so.
And my response to that is absolutely no. I work 70 hours a week at my job, so I have no time for a secondary business. These are my man toys, and I use them to save myself money and be able
Sure.
to perform my own functions.
All right, let's
So- so
see if we
yeah,
can
so
summarize.
that would
Let's see
be-
if we can summarize.
And let me just speak to this, the new permit, just so that I guess I can clear up the scope of what my vision of the property is. I mean, obviously, the biggest part of the work here is done of the front and whatnot. So the new permit application is basically gonna kind of summarize everything else that I have to do. I've been cleaning up the front yard, which is fine. There's an area in the back of the property, which I've noted here is approximately 50-foot square, which my intention is to dig that out and level it out so as to give me a little bit more usable space in the backyard, as well as to help with water issues from the hill, the high spot in the back of the property. And I want to take that material and deposit over here in this area where, the other stuff
Well, we
had
have
been
some question.
the questionable area, and level that all out, and, grass in or whatever, whatever has to happen there. And then, of course, the garden shed is going to be placed in the back of the property on the house side of the fence. And that'll give me, considerable storage to get rid of, the gas cans and the, outside tools and all the other things. And in doing so, that also will allow me to move the, snowmobile trailer and the bulldozer and the other pieces of equipment back, and possibly even put up a fence or something to, maybe make it a little bit more sightly and clean it up and whatnot. And once that's all done, and I get this all cleaned up, and I got my house, the front done, I got some nice flowers, and get some grass growing in there, and everybody will drive by and they'll say, oh my goodness, they got really did a good job.
I'm sure we will, or let's hope we will. Let's put it that way. Okay, let's see if we can summarize all of these issues. Okay, so the driveway permit is in process.
Correct.
But you will need to let us know that when that comes in, just so that we can follow up with that.
Yes.
The fact that the town may not know exactly, may not have correct your property line, we'll take that to our assessing company so that we can get that corrected. If there's an ensuing problem or a disagreement, we'll get back to you on that. So that means that that there's no encroachment if you are correct, which is what your point was, right? Where you're bringing that fill, that material, is not an encroachment if in fact, we're all in agreement that your property line is where you say it is. So then our only issue with what you're doing there is whether or not it's wetlands. And so Tom is gonna follow up on that with the state DES. You've given us a permit for the additional work that we didn't have. We'll have Tom review it and make sure that all the setbacks and whatnot are in place, and then we will act on that per his recommendation. The vehicles, we've said that it appears that you cannot have more than one unregistered vehicle on your land, so that, I've heard you say that you will take care of making sure that one of them becomes registered. And the rest is, I guess, your equipment, and you're in process, and at some point you hope to make it less, maybe a visual deterrent, say, but truly we have no ordinance about that, but it would just be appreciated, but, yeah. How did I do on a summary basis?
Excellent summation, Council.
All right, Jody, is there anything that?
I did have one question about the retaining wall. Did that need any extra special guidance because of the height of the retaining wall?
That was covered under the original one, and
Okay.
I did go over and look at that, and that,
Because I saw they redid it twice, like you had to curve it out. It was out more straight and now it's curved in more.
Well, what I actually did was of course, when I first installed it, it was kind of a work in progress.
Okay.
And then, I had some comments and some critique from other people that was kind of like tall and, kind of ended sort of abruptly. And so I went out and I actually just took some of it off, and I'm actually gonna take off probably 1.5 more layers, 3/4 of the way up to the road, just to drop it down in height and to make it more, visual,
I'm
appealing.
retaining, but Tom, it's within
Yeah,
structurally sound retaining,
Yeah, yes.
height-wise, okay. Okay, and it's not a business, you're not gonna be running a business from there, so we don't need a business permit. And back to figuring out what property lines are.
Among other things. So
Mhm.
So that summation seemed fair to you as what we both are agreeing we'll do going
Yes.
forward?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
so one final thing, if you could make copies of these.
You have copies, and I will just make note of the fact that actually prior to, it might have been just after the original work was done, I did come down and I went into the tax office and I brought in a copy of the deed, because at that time there was, I wanted some clarification on the property lines. And when you look at the tax map, it's kind of one property, and it's actually less square footage than what is actually in the deed. And, reading through, I had some questions of it, so I did bring it in, and I was told that it would be sent to whomever it's sent to look over.
We have an
and-
assessing company
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
contract
So,
with.
you do have a copy of this tonight, you do have a copy of this tonight, so
Okay.
you have those to review and use.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your coming in, and there've been these drips and drabs of issues, and so it was nice to meet you, nice to hear your point of view about all of these things, and we'll continue to work on the resolution as we just described.
Okay. Yeah, and I have no problem, I want to do everything by the rules and whatnot. The only question I would have, it would be, would the new permit application be on hold until
Yes, until the wetlands, we can make a determination about the wetlands.
determination of wetlands.
But he lives in town and it shouldn't take that long, so I would anticipate maybe by next
Okay.
meeting.
Okay, that would be helpful, yes.
And then whatever the determination is on that, I mean, I'm more than willing to work with, you know, whatever the recommendation is there. So if indeed it is considered a wetland, you know, he can make a recommendation on what would be allowable and what not, and I'm more than willing to work through that.
Great.
Okay,
Again, thank you very much for coming in, we appreciate it.
thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Yep. I'll just stay here because I see you in the next.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming in, Tom.
Take care.
Oh, yes. Well, we're actually still trying to run through community business, so
Oh,
let's see if there's more community business. Yes. Please come up, Deanna and George. George, thank you.
Well, for the record, my name is Deanna Rollo. I'm from 23 Heritage Drive in Rollinsford. And we hear about the proverbial speed bump at the end of my driveway.
Indeed. Would you like me to provide an executive summary, or would you like to provide an executive summary?
Well, you know, I'm kind of not happy if I happen to be here to begin with, because I've had an agreement with this board, prior boards, for years. A gentleman's agreement. Every year they said, oh, they're gonna take care of it. Well, no problem, we'll take care of it. No money in the budget this year. It's not that bad, we've got other issues, we'll take care of it. It's been going on forever. In fact, even this year, I had a conversation with you.
And as I want to say, I'm not the board, you did
No, I
have a
understand.
conversation.
Oh, no, I did have a
agree.
conversation with
We did
you
have a
as a
conversation.
member of the board.
Yes.
And it said, okay, you know, it's time. It's really to the point where it really is a speed bump. I mean, it's like, and I said, is this gonna happen in my lifetime? And you said, yes, hopefully this year. And so, I mean, I take everybody at their word. I mean, it's been going on forever. I understand that there's an RSA that says that the town is not responsible for it, and that's been brought to light for me now. The problem that I have with this is, back years ago, it was recognized that the building inspector, whoever it was at the time, did not properly inspect this, and it was not put in properly. And so, you know what, I suppose back then I could have done something about it, but it was like I was assured that it was gonna be taken care of, and I just let it go. Now it's to the point where it has to be taken care of, because it's causing issues with him trying to get into the driveway. It definitely, if you've been there, you know it's a speed bump. And the other issue is, this winter, past winter, with the town plow, it has caused even more damage. All the asphalt in front of my speed bump has been torn up, and there's huge chunks of it out in front of it that we've tried on occasions to get out there and try to, you know, to take care of. So at the very least, that needs to be taken care of. I believe that is the town's. But I believe when the conversation first came up with this board, the issue was that there was quite a bit of money that was going to be expended this year for, I think it might have been Bear Road, because it went over budget or something, and that we were so many thousands of dollars in debt, and perhaps that this wasn't a time to introduce an additional expense to the town. I since heard, I wasn't here at the meeting, I wasn't here at the last meeting, and I understood that Jeff made a presentation to the board that the hard money to the town, to the cost of fixing this property, is gonna be around $1,000. George and I have had a conversation, and we're willing to pay that to the town. We're willing to do that. I just want this thing taken care of, and I want it done properly. And I understand, I believe that the town will do it properly. Just do it and get it over with, and we'll just go on from there, if you would at least approve that.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And I
Yes,
am
George.
handicapped,
So, hold on. We're just-
fine.
Sure.
we just want to, we just want it resolved, that's all.
Okay, so just, you know, for benefit of everyone here, and to recap and make sure we're all on the same page. I mean, Dan is right, we have, personally, the two of us had a conversation about a driveway culvert. And based on a culvert that we removed about 2 years ago, when I first served on the board, and I'll be honest, it was, I mean, I thought that it was our responsibility, it sounded like it was our responsibility, so I was one of the people who approved to remove that culvert. So this looks to be something similar, although it's not a removal, it's a replacement of the culvert. But we have found an RSA that says the driveway culvert is the responsibility of property owners. Now, did we know that when we voted on that other thing 2 years ago? No, we didn't. So my position is that a bad decision or misguided decision that a board makes 2 years ago does not mean that we should continue to make that kind of a bad decision. So which is why we didn't actually have a vote, but last week, we decided to draft a letter to property owners saying that driveways are the responsibility of the property owner. Now, since that time, Deanna and I have had conversations about the situation, about the history, about what I would consider to be confusing communications and inconsistent communications from the board. Whereupon Deanna proposed, which you just heard her propose now, that if the town fixed the culvert, she would reimburse us for our expenses, which would be around $1,000. Is that
Somewhere in there.
somewhere around $1,000? And so I would like the board to consider that, and I would entertain a motion to do that. I would recommend that. I think it's considering all of the circumstances, it would not put the town out any money. But at the same time, I would also want to work with the planning board to establish some driveway culvert ordinances so that we're not in this position again of a board not knowing what its responsibilities are and making what was not a correct decision. So that's my own opinion about this. And Jody,
Yeah,
would you like to?
I do have an opinion about that. I was out looking out that road. I did see that driveway. Didn't know who the resident was, said, wow, that's awful, that should be fixed. Knowing that there was probably an RSA because my family fixed lots of driveway culverts, so I'm like, well, if the town was fixing them, why would they be in business? So there is an RSA. Unfortunately, I feel like you came to a member, but it was never brought to my attention up until just a few weeks ago. So everybody else in town writes letters to us, comes to the meetings and everything else, and presents to the board. So I feel like that should have been done. The RSA does say that if the road agent deems this culvert needs to be fixed and the resident doesn't do it, we can do it and bill the resident.
Yes.
So, with that said, if the resident comes to the board, such as you're doing yours right now, and the road agent deems that it needs to be fixed, we can, and they're not willing to fix it themselves, we can then fix it and bill the resident. So
So it comes out to the same
that
thing.
stays